Bentornati after a long pause at L'Antenne Podcast. I'm almost like not even sure how to open this up anymore.
You have to say welcome back after like 5 months. How long has it been?
Is it that long?
May? No, it's not been that long. It's been since May, I think. I want to say
3
April,
months.
May. Yeah, about 3 months.
So not really a vacation, at least from my perspective.
No, you've been getting no rest.
Which means that the baby Leonardo is growing, and he's more and more Genoano day after day.
That's right.
So, yeah. And how have you been doing, Matt?
It's good, man. It's been normal summer stuff for us. Just hanging with the dogs in New York. Nothing crazy.
So why are we here? Genoa, and only Genoa, Rosso Blu. So what has happened since our last episode? The season has ended.
It feels like a lot. Yeah, season has ended. We've got the upcoming Serie A campaign knocking on our door, and of course, we're playing Inter to start the whole damn thing off. So lucky us, I guess.
But let's do a quick, if you don't mind, let's do a quick path before we get to that, because that's like I would close it with the Inter match, which we don't have, unfortunately, any guest. And I'm sorry for all our friends out there. We probably try to catch someone in the next episode for a recap of the match, which of course we're going to win this time for nothing, right? Anyways, jokes on the side. First of all, welcome back to everyone. Thank you for hanging in there. Maybe there's only going to be 2 or 3 that are going to listen to it, but maybe there's going to be 2 or 3,000. We don't know. But end of the season, great finale. We ended 11th, a little bit lower than expectations from the hardcore fans, but I would say a very solid.
Which hardcore fan was expecting us to finish higher than 11th place?
It's one of those things, like during the season, all the way leading towards the end, everybody wants more. But the truth is, what were we expecting from the beginning? And that's what it counts. I would have signed on a blank sheet saying, okay, I'd be super happy for 11th spot. And that's what we got.
Absolutely.
Gilardino did an amazing journey, I would say, in his first year of Serie A. He learned a lot. We learned a lot. We were a newly promoted team, regardless of our past history, because of a whole bunch of factors, from new ownership, new management, new coach, a lot of new players, a lot of players that didn't even know what Serie A was all about, even though maybe a few had that tail end of the season where we got relegated under the first spell, like, I'm talking about Gudmundsson, I'm talking about Frendrup, that they got purchased in the second part of the year. But regardless, it was the year to consolidate our stay in Serie A. It happened. We were not necessarily considered the surprise of the season, but at the same time, we were a pleasant, I suppose, and I hope, a pleasant surprise rather than the super surprise. I don't know how to say that.
No, I mean, I think that, as we said in our banner from the beginning of the season, excuse us for our brief absence, I think we had a strong performance. That's the English version of that. But we had a strong campaign. I don't know if you were surprised by us. I think you weren't paying attention. Maybe perhaps because of the traditional instability of Genoa, as we know more than anyone else does. There might have been some surprises there. But looking at Gilardino, his growth and continual growth as a manager, and you have to say, like, looking throughout the squad, we had some talent that's there, and I think that ultimately we showed our position, and we demonstrated that, we do have a team that's capable in this division, and we got a lot of good results. It was a good season.
So let's not forget that we were, and we are still under the sort of like protectorship with respects to the deal that we had to cut with the taxman, meaning that because of the large debt that was taken over from the previous management, the owners, so those 777 partners, had to do a deal. This is all legit and legal. That basically you're more or less paying half. I'm just making it very vague, but more or less paying half. But you're forced to 3 transfer market sessions to stay in the green. Essentially, whatever you're selling, whatever you're buying cannot be more than what you're selling. So you have to sell first in order to buy, and you cannot go above that. So this is the last transfer market where we have to obey by that. And it has been interesting, and that's hence why we got the sell of Dragusin last winter market. And we'll talk about the summer market in a minute. But what happened after that? It was a very lengthy, towards the end of the season, are we confirming or not confirming Gilardino? At the end, it happened as many has expected, even though, of course, those mugugnoni, you know the word, what that means is like all those complainers. And I'm including also national papers and your usual Fabrizio Romano and all those journalists that are putting people everywhere, left, right, and center, where Gilardino was supposed to go here, there, and left, right, and center. But it was almost certain that he would stay also for his own career. It was more important not only to have a great year, but also to continue to show himself, to show and confirm himself. Anyway, so he got a new contract with Genoa for another 2 years, I suppose, if I remember that well, which is a very good thing. It's important for continuation to have that same stability, and that's very super important.
Yeah, we were at, I think this has been the off season, I think getting into it a little bit, like the off season of kind of uncertainty and seemingly more so as it's gone on. It's incredible. We're 5 days away from the season and we don't really know exactly what we're going to be looking at in terms of our starting 11. And I think your point on Gila, like last season kind of goes in two ways, right? Like we had a really great return, to your point, to the casual out there, to the casual Calcio fan, or maybe the fan that's not paying as much attention to Serie A. They probably were not very familiar with names like Albert Gudmundsson, like Matteo Retegui, like Radu Dragushin, as example. And the flip side of us being able to perform well and really show that our team has success is, of course, that all of a sudden now you get a bunch of eyes on the team and people saying, oh, okay, so there's some good players here. There's a good manager here. We could use that for our squad. And I think there was constant kind of rumors about Gilardino. We were thankful that seemingly, as you mentioned before, from the get-go, he kind of was not really playing into them. It didn't seem like it was a real thing. My compatriot Rocco Comiso seems to never stop wanting to buy all of our players and managers, and we need to tell him to stop. And Gila, of course, was chiefly rumored there. Of course, also from Viola, but that was like step one, and thankfully we cleared that. And now coming into the transfer window, we still have uncertainty, and I think this is the crazy part. We still have a lot of uncertainty, and the first match is 5 days away, which for me I think is wild.
Hold that thought. All right, so absolutely true. Let's continue quickly on that quick story time or path that we were going towards. So what happens during the summer? 777 still exist, still are operative. I'm just going to touch brief on this topic because it's still evolving. They were going to buy Everton, but that falls through. It doesn't happen. And perhaps also because of that, I guess the creditors, because it's a fund where it's getting a lot of financiers that are giving funds to 777 in order to invest and so on. And most of their teams that they have purchased, remember there's like 7 teams under the umbrella, or 8, I can't remember now. But most of them have not been having a good return yet. Mind you, the plan is like a medium to long term. And it takes some time before you get some return, because the idea around what 777 had when they were buying certain teams were buying them for little because they were in trouble, let's say, because they were in lower divisions or whatnot, and bring them back to stardom, per se. Genoa is probably one of the few that actually has turned around quite well. The other one seems to be quite doing well is also Hertha Berlin. I can't speak too much, but I don't know how much you know about it.
No, I don't know if we can call them doing well. They're still in the
doing better,
but didn't the acquisition happen? Was it before the season began, or was it during the season? I can't recall, but like obviously they're still in this fight to Liga. Hertha, I think, are going to be poised to come back up, and they're a team that truthfully are too big to be in that lower division. They just had years of instability. But you're right to say that the question marks and the uncertainty and 777. I'm not sure we can separate those things anymore. And the thing for us that's just frustrating and unfortunate is it just feels like this direction that we're traveling in, we don't know. Like there's all this other stuff going on. I don't know if you saw recently, like they just filed an appeal against one of their claims of fraud, which was expected. I think that happened 4 days ago, which drags out that court case another several months. So we don't know actually if they're going to be convicted of fraud until at least October, probably not even until later in the fall or the winter. And you just have this protracted thing where, this Everton buy blows up in their faces because they don't pass the fit and proper tests. And you have all these other things showing up that are all like really ugly, like missed payments and, these companies that they're running going belly up and all sorts of things that are looking really rough. We're clearly the only real investment property that's actually seemingly had some benefit. And I think we're one of the few fans that have not really spoken out as much. And I think, to be fair, it's been a good season and a half, 2 seasons with them, and the way we've been able to remove ourselves of our debts. But you start to look at the bigger picture here. And as you mentioned, we need to clear our sales before we can buy players. 777 has a very uncertain financial situation. Is that playing a role? And I think it's been very tumultuous for us so far.
Well, it's more than tumultuous. I would say that it's very dark. So meaning we're blindsided. We don't really know what the direction is. Some journalists pull out ideas out of their head, claiming them to be the news. There was for a while this news saying that one of the financiers called ACAP, which is one of the biggest lenders, is going to be taking over Genoa, but they don't know if they're going to be wanting to stay into soccer. This was all invention because nothing has been confirmed. Actually, the CEO just not too long ago has released a interview at one of the local papers, and he mentioned that 777 currently is still the owner, and ACAP is only one of the financiers. But let's move on from that. Right now, it's an involvement. Whenever we know something, we will tell you about it. Right now, Genoa is still continuing to be positive. They're still doing their transfer market. We're going to get to the transfer market actually just right before we talk about the season tickets. So we go into the summer retreat, this usual place from last year. It's Moena. It's a beautiful town in the Trentino area. Very beautiful. Lots of fans follows and went there and so on. And from there, also the season ticket campaign started.
Yes.
And last year we reached a city record last year, like the previous year, for 27,777. Obviously, they stopped the sales at a certain point in order to record that number, which, we've had conversations in our internal chats and whatnot to say that was ridiculous and that's the way so American and whatever. Who cares? Obviously, it's some pride. It's some sort of pride in order to stop it at 777. This year, the season tickets reached another city record for 28,093. So they stopped it again at 093, just because of the 93 to resemble sort of like the 1893, which was the year of our foundation. But that continues to show the interest, and even under these uncertainties that is happening from the ACAP versus 777 versus, uncertainty in general, there is still this love and followership and interest towards around the world of Genoa. And that's what the important part is. Soon after the closure of that season tickets, we get the news about the sell. Well, I should have said during that, we already knew that one or two, this was already understood, 1 or 2 big pieces were going to be sold. So the first one happened, a little bit of a surprise from my perspective, but then you get used to it and it's okay. And that was Martinez. So Martinez gets sold for around 13 to 15 mil over to Inter Milan. So we are without a player. The whole entire summer retreat was without the main goalie. We start to get used to, I'm going to say that quote unquote, very big quotes, to our second goalie to be our main goalie,
Leali. Yeah.
Correct. Good goalie, but
Not a bad second option, to be fair.
It's a good second option, and he remains as such. There was a lot of rumors. We talk about De Gea. They talked about
De Gea, yeah.
De Gea, yeah. They talked about this other goalie that just slips off of my mind. I don't know if you remember. Romero was another one. And anyways, there are a few that we're talking, and these were all because the idea of 777 is the prospect of getting some players, building them up, and creating them in order to evaluate them and sell them eventually, because it has to be a self-sustainable club, et cetera, right? So the Gea already, in a way, didn't seem like the right fit, even though from a mediatic / marketing perspective, seemed like a very good approach. But I was not convinced, mostly because of the age. Forget about even his salary expectations, which he's a free agent anyways, so it would have been worked a little bit different. But at the end, so we ended the summer retreat, and just not too long ago, we got the news about signing on Golini from Atalanta. This is a loan with the right to buy. This was one of the best Italian goalies 4 or 5 years ago, and all we can do is hope that he will shine back to what he was previously. We have the right to buy, so it's already set a certain price. I can't remember now what the price was, but it's not like an enormous price, like 3 million or something like that. But that is interesting. A lot of people saw it a little bit on a negative perspective, perhaps because they were like flashed by this De Gea name. But let's hope and let's trust what our Ottolini, which is our sports director and so on, are trying to plan to do also in the transfer market. I don't know if you think about anything differently on that one.
No, I mean, I think Golini, I find him to be actually really interesting. I mean, remember Josep Martinez, when we signed him, was literally a backup player for Leipzig. I don't think he had ever played in the first team, barring a couple of matches. Maybe he played for Salzburg. I don't even remember. But this was a guy that, he kind of fit the bill because of Spurs' background, and because, he's coming from the system. Obviously, RB Leipzig have a pretty good way, the Red Bull system, as much as you want to say anti-modern football or whatever it is. A lot of players have come through there, and so the hope is maybe this guy works out. And of course, to all of our surprises, Martinez ends up starting and really becoming one of our more important players. And I think with Golini, you're right. This is a guy that had enormous kind of, not even potential. He really was one of the better keepers for some time. He fell off maybe a little bit, and maybe didn't have an amazing season last season. And I think those are also both true and fair things to say. But honestly, I feel more, if not as confident in Golini coming in at our side as I do with Martinez. And Martinez, I wish him good luck in Inter. I wish him to do well. But sometimes you go into different systems and different squads and you look a lot different. And I think with Golini, I'm really interested to see how he's involved. I think that he was signed very intentionally as a player who is maybe being asked to play with his feet and did play certain passes in certain ways. We'll see exactly if that comes to fruition, if he's doing the same things that Martinez does. I'm not sure we've seen him yet in action for Genoa, so it's hard to say. But that's obviously Leali's biggest misgiving. Leali's a pretty damn good keeper. Let's not kid ourselves. He's a great shot stopper. He's just not very good with his feet, and we saw that in some of the Coppa Italia and Serie A matches that he played last year. But I think Golini is it's an interesting one for me, and I personally am pretty optimistic about it all. I don't even know if it's a downgrade, to be honest.
No, I think it's a good upgrade and very under the radar, and I think that's actually a great. I hope it's going to be a great signing for us.
Yeah.
So this opens the quick conversation about what happens in this transfer. Let's not forget that we have a whole bunch of heavyweights, again, from the previous ownership and also from our ownership too. And I'm just going to mention a few, from Puskas to
I know. I couldn't believe it. I saw him still on the team sheet or the
Yeboah and so on. So quickly going through a list, I'm going to only touch upon the ones that at least are, come out black over white. I mean, they hop on my mind more than anybody else. So I'm going to divide them in different categories. The first one is end of the contract. So the first one obviously is Strootman. So Strootman is no longer with us.
Yep.
Good and bad, I guess, about that. Great. Thank you for that, Matt. He is still one of the symbols that was out of the whole entirety of last season. Together with Badel, I think they were the two strongholds of the locker room. And he will be definitely 100% dearly missed.
Yeah.
Then another one, which will be super happy for a lot of fans, finally the end of the contract for Casata. So he's finally gone. Maybe a lot of people don't know about him, but he's like, I don't know. He's just like ridiculous. Anyways, now, same, a little bit different on the topic, but still part of the transfer market. We have 3 major re-signing. So these were individuals that had their contract coming to an end or ended, and they have re-signed. First one, Badel. Nth time that he re-signs again for another year.
Just crazy.
Good and bad. A lot of fans are hating him, but we still have to think about the potential and the importance that he has in the locker room. And let's hope that really this year he is going to be that, I guess, that motherhood of the next generations of midfielders, I suppose.
So I know this is not a very good comparison because the particular period I'm thinking of is really towards the end of his career. But this reminds you at all of Goran Pandev, just like seemingly still showing up in the squad year after year?
In a way, yes.
Not quite. I know it's not a great comparison, but
no, it's a good comparison because it both not Italian, both at a certain age, both at the end of their career, both are still giving their 100%.
They're still contributing. Yeah,
contributing in an incredible way. I think it's coming from 2 different ownerships. So obviously there was different reasons why they were keeping him. We are keeping both. But I really strongly believe that Badel was giving, a lot of people are going to disagree with me on what I'm about to say, but he has given a strong importance to last season's. Without Badel, I think we would have lost a lot of points. People are thinking about the opposite, but I don't think so.
So can you enlighten me? Because I've been a fan really probably only for 5 or 6 seasons or so. And I've never understood the Badel hate. I don't get it. Okay, he's slow. He's old. But this guy has, when he's on his day, he has some of the best passing of any player that we have in this team. And he always seems to be, in the matches when we don't have him, I think you kind of notice that that's not there. I don't really get the frustration about the whole thing.
The hatred around, this is my opinion, but from what I'm reading, listening, and hearing, the frustration around Badel is the slowness, the age, and the mistakes. But
he does make a couple. I mean, he's prone to those a couple of times a season, but
maybe due to the fact of the age. But a lot of other players are still doing a lot of mistakes. But he's more on the target instead of others.
I'm with you.
But
on that one, 100%.
I think the strongest thing that I want to say, and I think this, if they're honest with themselves, as soon as I say what I'm about to say, they're going to just shut up. Let's remember back in the day, the hatred people had for Milanetto, but the contribution he is giving also to the team. Very similar, very slow, very good, was giving the right balls at the right time that gave those semi-assists or just the before the assist type of thing, that without these type of players, things would be different. And I'm sorry to say that, but the day that we will miss Badel, I hope that we're going to have someone very similar to him.
100%. I mean, we need a guy like that.
Second one is Ekuban. End of his contract. Again, similar to Gilardino. What's going to happen? He's going to go. He's going to stay. People hate him. People love him. We know that, etc. At the end of the time, at the end of the game, he essentially has a contract for 2 years with an option for a third one. And I think right now we're super in need of a player like him, and he has exponentially grown since 2-3 years ago. He's a totally different player.
Were you surprised by this? Because I remember in the springtime, I was kind of negative on the whole thing. It seemed like he was saying stuff about like feeling like he was maybe in or out. I got more vibes from him. Not that he was not been a team player, because I think that's really wrong to say that like he'd never like tried for the team or something. I think he's always actually had that passion, but I kind of got a feeling that he might be trying to test the waters a little bit more. And it seemed like it was a pretty, I mean, I'm sure he had other interests or something, but it seemed like it was a pretty affirmative, like, yes, I'm going to spend the next few years in Genoa. And I completely agree with you. Like he was massively important to us again last season. And I think he's got even more of an opportunity to contribute this season. But I was a little surprised, to be honest, in a good way, like that he ended up re-signing and that we were able to retain him.
No, I think a lot of what we know is only based on the journalists, what they invent and tell us.
True. Yeah.
So we only know what we're told. Personally, I think there was a back and forth between both the club and the player. The player was looking perhaps for more confirmation, like a certain number of years, and the club was also looking for perhaps, wait a minute, you're getting old now. I'm trying to look for someone younger as talent and build them up. So I think it was just like both of them trying to find the right fit, the right place. He had to lower his expectations also on the salary, which he did. And it happened. And I think I'm super happy about that. The way he shows the dedication to that shirt is very close to little nowadays on new signings and so on.
I mean, he's a really important player, because I think that like I know he's been criticized a lot of times as maybe not having technique, which I also think is kind of wrong. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I think that like when he does come on the pitch, he offers a different dynamic to most of the other players we have up top, and it's just I think it's a clear benefit to both sides.
100%. Last one out of the renewals is De Benedetti. He comes from our youth. He was loaned out a few times. He's still out on loan. He's a great forward, a good projection for the future. His contract got renewed again until 2026. End of loans. So these are people that are leaving us because we didn't believe in them or because we couldn't buy them. First one, happy to see him go, is Haps. Second one, semi-half happy to see him go because it didn't really impact much, was Cittadini. And last but not least, totally different opposite end of the story, is Spence, which we were interested in buying him out, but Tottenham was not interested at all in lowering his right to buy amount, which was set at 10?
I think so.
Something like that. But we were more aiming for something 4 or 5, 6. Sorry, 5 or 6, somewhere around there. And it didn't happen, so he went back home with Tottenham. Now, quickly going through to who got sold. So this is, again, that very heavyweight that I was talking to you about before. So that means that they're off our books now. So first one is Buxa, which is gone. I don't know if anybody of you remembers him. He's this young Polish player on the blondish. Buxa.
Mm-hmm.
Buxa. Then we have, I'm just reading through, there's a lot of youth here. Scaravilli, Sarpa, Calvani. Well, he's sent on loan. Coda. Massimo Coda. Another one that a lot of fans have been blowing their minds around them. Like, who cares? This guy was a dead weight with respect to, everybody forgot about how much they were upset about him. Great player, lots of great contribution, but definitely did not shine how he was supposed to. And they get all pissed because he goes to Sampdoria.
I mean, I think rightly so, though. I'm a little bit pissed off too. He was never going to play for us. It wasn't going to be something where he was going to get a lot of time, but
he still had at least another year, I think, at $1.5 million.
Oh, that we would have owed him, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It was always a weird one. He's like we talked about before when we were in Serie B. Like this guy dominates in Serie B every season, and he just never seems to go up. He just finds another club in Serie B and did it again.
Right.
I don't know, but I don't have anything bad to say about him. But I was a little bit upset about that, just on principle.
I know. I was like, whatever. He was the one that wanted to go there based on the fact that Sampdoria was the only team that was able to give him a 2-year contract. Everybody else was only interested in 1 year.
Yeah.
Bocci got sold to Ferral Pisalò, which got demoted down back to Serie C. Then we have Sibora, loaned out to Tyrol. Then we have Aramu, loaned out to Mantova. Then we have Martinez, which we talked about before, that got sold to Inter. Then we have Yeboah, sold to Minnesota United in the MLS.
Yeah.
And then we have, just reading a few names here, Hefty, which was sold to Hamburg. Portanova, which was loaned with the obligation to buy to Reggiana. And then Calvani is on loan off to, he's a young one, to Brescia. Last but not least, Retegui. This was interesting. So Goodmanson's rumors going on for a while. It's happening. All these newspapers, especially out in Florence, it's like, oh, he's a done deal. Fuck you, Genoa. He's ours. Like, whatever. This was happening already in January. Did not happen. And they were still at it again, as to your comment about the Comiso guy. Anyways, out of the blue, what happens? Scamacca, I'm sorry for him, by the way, a very bad injury. That means he's not back until February, March of next year. And Atalanta at the doors of the Super Cup against Real Madrid and of a Champions League coming up, they're in desperate need of a striker. They come with the right amount of money that Genoa was asking, and Retegui, who previously had asked to look for somewhere else, not in a rush, but he was interested also to be sold off. He got sold to Atalanta.
Goodbye, Matteo.
I see you shaking your head. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I don't know. I mean, the practical person in me, I don't think 22 million is a bad sum of money for him. I think that
plus bonus.
Yeah. So I don't think that was we got a low offer or something. I know some people were saying that Preziosi vibes to the deal. Maybe you can enlighten me a little bit more on what was coming on with that. I think it maybe has more to do with guy comes into the squad, shines brightly, then goes away to never be seen again type of a thing. And I'm not sure it's entirely fair in this case because we know, to your point, that we're not exactly out of the woods yet. It's just the frustrating thing with this, as I was kind of saying beforehand, is this Retegui move happens only a few days ago, a week before the season begins, and we don't have any real clear players that are lined up to replace him. And as you maybe mentioned earlier, what had been looming for much longer is this kind of concept that Goodmanson could be going. And I think some of the kind of concerns and venting on the chats, and I agree with this very much so, Martinez, okay, one of our better players last season, he goes, I think we thought he might go, I think we got a decent fee for him. I think we have a decent replacement for him, but nevertheless, this guy was a pretty crucial player the last 2+ seasons for us. Retegui, this guy's meant to be our linchpin, the guy that's scoring goals, that is carrying us up. He's holding our scarves in New Jersey when he's playing matches for the Italian national team. He's our guy, all this stuff. He goes after one season, and I'll be honest, it was a fine season, but it wasn't an amazing season. So in a way, there's something about it where the bigger frustration is that there's not a player that's coming back in. And now I think we're staring down.
For now,
sure. But I think it's fair to say for now, Fabry, we're 5 days from the season starting. So we have no replacement for our starting striker, and our season match opens in less than a week. And there are rumors anyway, strong ones, that our our best attacking player is also going with no replacement being identified. So
let's get to that in a minute. Hold on to that one. But yeah, okay, I get your point. You're right. It seems like, but I did remember the CEO saying they were not going to be reactive. Sorry, they were not going to be active, but they were going to be reactive, meaning based on something that happens, then they're going to try to do what they need to do. Contrary to the previous years where they were more active in the transfer market and trying to look for potential. I don't know. I'm not going to judge, as I said also in different podcasts. I'm not going to judge anything until the end of the transfer market at midnight of the local time of the 31st of August. I'm saying midnight because usually it was at 8 p.m. local time. Now it's going to be at midnight on the 31st of August. So I know what you're saying. There's like 3 matches in there, 4 matches. I can't remember. But how many times there are players that are happening during the season start, and you're still looking for players. I get your frustration. I get it. No one's not feeling it, but it's, I don't know. Let's put it this way. The amount of players that we had in the summer retreat, we knew we were not going to hold off to all of them for a team that is in no cups, and we could not afford to have. And I haven't touched upon those players yet, but with the likes of Vitinha, of Malinowski, of Messias, of Retegi, and Goodmanson, we can't play them all on the same time. So we can't afford these players. What I'm trying to say, I wish one day we will, hopefully, right? But we can't afford to have these players on the bench. What I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think the likelihood that players moving is something that fans have been bracing for. And look, I think maybe you can say realistically the Olympics, in addition to the Euros, which the Olympics are kind of overlooked sometimes, I think, especially for us. Both of those had a unfortunate impact on our ability probably to get a lot of deals done. But that being said, you see a lot of other clubs throughout Europe getting a lot of other deals done. And look, that's also like not be completely myopic to the whole thing. We did also sign Zoli, we've not talked about.
We're going to get that in a second, yeah.
It's not like we've not done anything with this stuff. It's just, I don't know as a Genoa fan how you can't be frustrated right now, even knowing that we have, a couple of weeks left to go, because it's not just our window that's closing. It's the other teams that we're trying to do deals with as well. Their windows are also closing.
No, it's true, but it's also very well known that at the end of the transfer market window, things get tight. If you don't need to sell, you're going to keep your price up. But if you need to sell, your price is going to go down. And that's when you're trying to look also for deals, right? I'm not saying that's right. That has always been like that. So I guess we're used to that. But let's quickly close the Calcio Mercato with what we bought, because a lot of people are starting to forget what happened. And also those obligations to buy or those right to buys that got engaged. So let's start. We talked about Golini. So he's a loan with the right to buy. Then we have Zanoli finally arriving. I had no hopes about that guy anymore. And it apparently was not about him. I mean, we kind of knew that it was about Napoli. But this is a loan with the right to buy, an obligation to buy under certain circumstances. In an interview with the kid actually did say there was a deal that was happening with Monza, but he turned it down because he was interested in coming to Genoa. So that says a lot, I think. Vitinha. So that was a straight loan. Actually, no, it was a loan with a right to buy, a very high price tag. That price tag got exercised because we really believe in that player. And if the club is actually has thought about paying that, and people are forgetting about that amount of money, everybody was super enthusiastic about Vitinha. So let's not forget also about what things happened. And the same thing to Malinowski. We remember towards the end of the season, it didn't even end the season yet, and we exercised that right to buying out straight out Malinowski. And we haven't talked about it yet, but what an assist did he do to Junior Messias? the next one in my list, anyways, to talk about the obligation to buy in the Coppa Italia. Wow.
Incredible.
Junior Messias next in my list, as I mentioned. He was another player that was an obligation to buy, so that's another price tag that had to come out of our pockets. Bohinen was another loan with the obligation to buy from Salernitana. And De Winter was another obligation to buy from Juventus. And Thorsby was, I have to start to think, I'm not going to say that too loud. I really didn't like that player, but he did a great end of the season.
Thorsby had a good season. I mean, the second half of the season was strong for him. I don't think you can. I understand for good reason why a lot of people are not big fans of him, but I think he actually has.
He's goofy.
He has some potential this season too, but he is a little goofy.
So closing the Calciomercato with Gudmundsson, another one. Great rumors, a lot of people talking out of their butthole, excuse my language, but he's already in Florence. He wants to go to Florence. He hates Genoa. He's already there. BS. The truth is, he's already 27 years old. He's looking for a better placement in his career. Fiorentina, even though they do believe they are way superior than Genoa, they are, of course, a little bit better than Genoa because they are third year in the row playing in a conference league. But it's just a little better. Sorry?
The fake Europe trophy.
But what I'm trying to say is, like, he's trying to get a little bit of a better deal, especially because of his pay. So right now he's getting 1.2. At Fiorentina, they mentioned that he was going to get 2.4 million a year, and so is that. But then the whole Aretegi happens that comes and slips out of the hands under his feet, or everybody's feet, Fiorentina included, which stalled everything. Genoa now has sent out an increase of his wage by 1 million, so that would bring at 2.2. We're just waiting for his response to see if he wants to stay or if he's ready out the door, as has always been mentioned in all the papers all around the city, around this country, around the world, actually. So that's it for the Calciomercato for now. There's, as you said, there's still a couple of weeks left. But not to mention, a lot of youth have been aggregated to our first squad. We still have to understand who is staying, who is not. Among them, we have a Cornero. Among them, we have a couple of new ones. I don't know if you ever had a chance to notice them. That we have Hector. We still have Fini, which we have seen him a while back. And there's one more player, I can't remember now the name. But these are amazing qualities of these youth players, which I hope that we keep them, because I think they have potential to shine.
Yeah, it's encouraging to see that we're not completely selling the farm on the youth system. I think that's something that has to be part of our strategy. I know that's what Vasquez and others believe in. And as your point beforehand on De Gea, like we need to be able to grow that way. And so hopefully we see a few of those players that get some minutes and some time in Serie A this season. One player I will mention who, to be fair, I'm not sure it's formal, but coming off of your comments on Jed Spence. So as of today, it looks like we're going to be signing a player from Arsenal's academy, actually, a player called Brooke Norton-Cuffy. I think he most recently played for Millwall in the English Championship. Mainly has played some time in the third division of English football, maybe some other second division time. Really interesting, actually, hearing you talk about Spence and us having like a sticking point with Tottenham, because for me, this guy looks exactly like Jed Spence. He's the way that he like profiles, and we're getting him for a lot less than we would have to pay for Tottenham for Jed Spence. So I think this seems like an obvious win for us, given a lot of us, I think both of us included, were kind of excited about Jed Spence.
Am I mistaken, or are you sort of a fan of Arsenal as well?
I am. I can't lie. Arsenal were my first club. I was right by a bar in New York, and I got kind of drawn in there. But this guy, he never really was on the radar at Arsenal. I don't think he ever had an opportunity to make it into the first team. ultimately, it's £3.5 million, about €4 million that we're paying for him. The scouting report on him anyway, very fast, very athletic. He's a right wing back. He really would play well in the 3-5-2, and so it fits Giordino's system perfectly, I think. He is not necessarily very good with dribbling, or he may not have the best pass, but I think he's a player that still could be useful. He's got a ton of pace, and if we can somehow find a way to get his passing a little bit more accurate in particular, I think that it could be a really valuable assignment. And if not, you give somebody who can really run and press at players either early in the match or maybe later in the match if we need some extra legs.
Where would he fit?
He would be a right wing back for us.
Right wing back?
Yes.
So that would be on the 5 or on the 3?
He would be part of like the midfield 5 effectively. So you would still keep
third to Sabelli and
Aaron Martin. He would be probably more in I guess both of those guys are kind of interchangeable in where they're playing, but he would be in one of their positions.
Okay. Well, there's definitely a potential for the future anyways.
Yeah, I think if any, I don't know exactly how it's going to work for us, but it's a small investment, and I think at the end, it's a guy that gives you legs, and so I'm sure he's going to probably get almost all of his minutes coming off of the bench, and hopefully be a nuisance for teams when they're tired in the second half. It seems exactly like that type of player, but that's good. We need players like that.
Next topic. Stadium. Just wanted to quickly touch upon it. Was supposed to happen, this whole new company that was supposed to be between Genoa and Sampdoria did not happen. I'm not sure where it's standing. I don't think actually anything is happening among the two teams. We already know Sampdoria's situation, in which they're semi-broke, meaning that they don't have enough cash for that. Genoa had mentioned that they have 100 million ready to be invested. Now with everything happening with 777, I'm not too sure where that stands. I'm not saying it's not there anymore. I just don't know, and I don't want to say anything differently from that, which ties me into also one thing that I forgot to mention before. Seems like PIF, the public investment fund from Saudi Arabia, is interested in buying some teams from the 777 group. No word on which teams have been announced. One or two they talked about potentially. Standard Liège and Red Star from Paris, but we don't know how many and which ones. Could be just a simple rumor, so I'm just saying that as that.
Yeah. Grown.
So, Coppa Italia. So we have played last Friday, so that was the opener of the season 2024-2025. Yay! Super excited. Genoa traveled quite well, shipped well, or whatever that expression is, against Reggiana. Reggiana, quite an interesting side. We already knew they were going to be difficult. They didn't really give too much troublesome to Deali, even though he did do a couple of amazing saves. But I think we should sign on Reggiana's goalie, because he did amazing against Genoa. That if it wasn't for his saves, it would have been probably a 4-0 to some of that level. And as we mentioned before, Ruslan Malinowski comes into the second half, gives this amazing dribble, and then assist over to Junior Messias. And he scores this little chip, as we say in Italian, cucchiaino goal. And it was just beautiful. Amazing player as he is, very humble. And also in an interview post-match, he says, do you think that number 10 on your jersey is very heavy, a heavy weight for you? No, I'm ready to take on anything that is needed for this team. And I'm super pumped. I'm tired after this whole entire match, but I'm still full of energy and wanting to show. Last year, I did not show as much as I wanted to, and I am able to. And this year, hopefully nothing happens, and I can provide even more help for the team. Go Junior. All right. Last. Today we're recording. It's Monday. So probably hopefully on Tuesday we can pull out this episode. On Saturday, it's the opener of, unfortunately for the second time it happens to us anyways, so the first match of Serie A is always from the former champion or the reigning champion. So this is Inter. The good thing is we're playing at the Ferraris with 28,093 season tickets, and the prices of those tickets left were apparently, from what I heard, like extremely high, but you can't complain about that. And Inter coming to the Ferraris. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's kind of like I said, it's a difficult one when you don't know exactly who's going to be in. We've had some matches with and without Albert. There's question marks. I don't think there's a question mark if he's going to play or not.
Today, he is back on the training field, by the way.
So, yeah. So I would expect him to play. But I think for a lot of Genoa fans, there's a little bit of question mark if that happens or not. I mean, when you think about it, think about our lineup and how we might look for this. It's curious to me if we're going to start with Golini already, or if we have Leali begin the season. I would imagine it'll be Golini. It just, I suppose, just depends on.
Rumors have it for Golini.
Yeah, that would make more sense to me. I think starting with Leali and then having Golini come in is sort of strange. But I guess you could maybe argue, would it be Bani or Vogliacco? But De Winter, Vogliacco, Vasquez as our back three. Possibly. I don't know, you think Sabelli, Aaron Martin as our wing backs, and then you're looking at Frendrup, Badel, Malinowski as those other guys making up the midfield core with Goodmanson and Vitinha. I mean, when you look at that lineup, that's a pretty damn strong lineup. We're going up against Inter, so that's the problem. Inter are obviously at a level above, honestly, the whole competition. I don't know. Is there any expectation that we're going to see Martinez? I don't think there is.
No, I haven't. I have to ask forgiveness to our listeners, but I haven't really followed too much. The only thing I know is essentially that a lot of players are in the infirmary on their side as well. We have 4. I'm trying to remember now very vividly, but Ekuban, Ankeye, the youth defender, I can't remember now his name. And one more. Anyways, we have 4 players in our infirmary, and I know there's a few also from Inter side. One of them I remember off the top of my head. I know it was Arnautovic. Not that I think they believe that that's the great striker of their century, but I don't know about Martinez.
Yeah, I guess you're right. So I think he's obviously
Marcandali and
Maturo are 2 guys. Yeah, sorry, I could have bailed you out there. On the Inter side, they have a couple of players, but no one in the goalkeeper position. So Zielinski, De Vrij, and the guy called Buchanan, I think a younger player, are the guys that are not going to be available on their side. But, again, and to be fair, right, if you have Jan Sommer, he's probably going to start in the goal. And then also, I always forget they have Radu as well. So they've got a couple former Genoa keepers back there. It's going to be a tough one.
Radu is what, number 3 now? Or he's gone?
No, he's technically still on the squad. I would imagine they're going to try to sell him or something. I'm not sure they're going to keep him. But he's definitely, I would imagine he's below Martinez. Anyway, enough about Martinez. I think this one is probably not going to end particularly well for us. I would imagine that Genoa will have a decent performance. It's just going up against the best squad in the season. I suppose in some ways, if you're going to get an Inter match off the calendar, starting with the season opener is not a terrible way to face them, because everyone's kind of coming off of some rustiness with the season kind of returning and everything else going on. I don't know. I mean, I think for me, the hardest way of preparing for this match is, as I've mentioned before, it's not seemed super clear what our idea is for this season beyond, Giordino likes to play a certain style. We don't know who we're keeping and who we're not. We're not going to know that for sure. You've had some manager comments in the press and other things, and it's not on Gila to be keeping everybody all informed all the time, because even himself, he's in a certain way part of what is being made above him. But it's hard for me to be really confident in predicting or thinking, yes, we're going to have a really good stronghold. I think the guys are going to go out and perform. They're going to fight for the shirt. I don't think it's going to be anything like that. but it's difficult for me to say anything other than we lose at least 2-1. And I think we'll see. I don't think the guys will have an embarrassing performance. Again, I don't think it's going to be like the 2021 season. We just got our asses kicked. Like, it's not going to be like that. I feel really confidently that that's not going to be the case. My Inter friends, I will for sure be shit talking all the way up to the start of the match, and hopefully at the end of it too. But I don't see us winning this one. Do you have a rosier thought of this than me, or how do you think about it all?
Well, my mind is telling me about the same. I would have hoped for a 1-0 loss, but just because I want to be a little bit on the positive side, I think we can pull a tie.
It's possible. It's not a question.
Because this is probably the best time to face Inter. It's better now than halfway through the first leg, because of different reasons, because still early in the game, still a whole bunch of players that are out, not in totally full shape and form. So I think this is the best moment. They are not known to be right now to be in a super high state, but at the same time, it's still Inter. So definitely not a win, but I can see a 1-1.
Yeah, I mean, a tie is not out of the question for us, for sure. I think it's going to be a good performance from the guys. I just think that, like, I'm kind of also curious. These are the things that as fans maybe put too much effort or too much weight on. And as looking at last season, obviously, our match against Fiorentina can show you, like, these first matches usually mean very little in the course of a season.
Correct.
But it's an interesting one because I think, fairly or unfairly, with all of the 777 stuff swirling around, with all of a sudden seems like it might be coming to our doorstep after all this time, we've been putting our head in the sand and, like, hoping it's not going to happen. With some of these strange rumors about players coming and going and maybe a little bit more departures. By the way, I'm knocking on wood right now, but I mean, how lucky do you feel that, like, there's been, like, no friend conversation so far? I think that's super encouraging.
It has been clear. CEO said he's off the market.
That's wonderful. Like, I think, like, that's such a big thing, but maybe even more important than some of the players that we've let go, that we are able to keep him in the squad.
Then you have journalists like, what's his stupid face? Anyways, he's like with this Passione Fiorentina, his name, Pedula. Oh my God. Like, one of the clownest of the clowns.
He sucks.
He's actually saying, this player wants to leave Genoa. Friendup wants to leave Genoa. Who fucking wants to stay there? I think Genoa should ask themselves, why are players wanting to leave? Where is he getting this information that he's inventing? Like, F you. Like, seriously. These people, and they're even, like, strongly believers of themselves too.
It's ridiculous. I mean, anyway, I think the point I'm trying to make is there's been uncertainty in this transfer market, and it's put a weird damper on the start of the season because of we just don't know what's going to happen and how different the squad is going to look. And I think the interesting thing about this opener against such a talented squad is it kind of gives you a little bit of, like, a metric as to how the players are responding to Gila, which we don't really need that anymore. We've seen, like, enough of a sample where these guys care about him and they believe in him. But what I think you're going to see, and I feel confident saying this, which again, you can tell I'm not Italian by where I'm going with this whole thing. But, like, I think that, like, I think you're going to really see a good performance from us. I just think that Inter have a better class than where we are. But you're going to see guys that are come up to this match that are not going to be intimidated. I think you're going to see a bunch of players who believe in the way that Gila wants to play. And like I said, if you read that starting lineup as it is, it's a pretty fucking good starting lineup. You got Macias coming in off the bench, maybe Ekuban coming in off the bench. You know, like, there's at least some options that you have there. Maybe not as much as we would have had we had a Retegui, and we've kind of always been, even with Retegui, there was a little bit of a problem of having we too thin at the striker position. But it's an interesting thing, and I'm looking forward to the season regardless. I just hope that we're able to put these other transfer rumors behind us, because it's been too many weeks, Fabry. It's been too many weeks wondering is Goodmanson going? Are we going to get somebody else? There's some rumors now of this Wolves player, but he's going to cost like 30 million. So that doesn't kind of make sense. It's just like,
listen, if he goes, he goes. If he stays, F Fiorentina.
well, yeah, F Fiorentina regardless, but also even more so if he goes.
Anyways, we are in a wrap. This was an amazing recap. We are back. And
We're back.
We are back, baby. And never forget, always and forever, Forza Genoa. You've listened to La Lanterna, a spotlight on Italian football, a podcast powered by Genoani Si Resta. Thank you for listening and see you next week.